This is the Fearless Experience with Brendan P. Keegan. Conversations with leaders who provide valuable, candid insights from their journeys and share their secrets to what made them successful and fearless.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Fearless Experience. And today's fearless leader is Maarten Paes. He is the starting goalkeeper for FC Dallas and the Indonesian National Team. Very exciting. Now, his career path has taken him through great moments of resilience, injuries, positional battles in the Netherlands, and we'll get to that, and a complex international switch, which us in the U.S. sometimes don't understand all the complexities of that. He's forged unique leadership perspectives, and I'm really excited to talk these through today. So, Maarten, welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor to be on this show, and I can't wait to talk about leadership, talk about the highs and lows of sport and on and off the pitch. So thanks you for having me, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, I got to say, one of my other podcasts, we had somebody who's in private equity, but they were a hockey goalie. And so today we have a goalkeeper, and I think there's something special about someone who's a goalie, a goalkeeper, for that matter, a closer in baseball. And there's something that's to be said for resilience. So let's start with resilience. And there's resilience in the game, but there's also resilience in your career because there's only one person that starts.
Sure.
It's not like it's other positions where, there's multiple lines. So, you spent some time as a backup early in your career. And how does being a backup and having resilience to be ready when the time comes, how does that shape your leadership with patience and preparation and also just being a supportive team member? So talk to us about resilience in being a goalkeeper and with there only being one that plays on any given time or season.
I think it's a good question. I think patience is definitely one of the hardest traits in sport or in life in general, right? So when you are younger, it's normal that you're a backup because the more experienced players are still playing in the team and you're just trying to learn, trying to observe. But then at some point, you're, for example, in your national team, other players already gonna to play, and then that urge of, hey, I need to play is gonna come. And I actually struggled at the beginning of my career about that because I was getting really angry about it, and I didn't. I started to have a mental coach at that time, but then I was every time taking this to bed and having these mental thoughts about, man, I need to play, I need to play, and then with my mental coach, we started to make sure that the process of going to play was right, and when I was on the pitch that I was ready, right? And resilience for me is being able to cut out the distractions, and the distractions can be opinion of others, the distractions can be yourself, your own thoughts. So for me is how to cut out that distractions, and I think having someone to talk to is very, very important from a young age. Then I love meditation and breath work before games. And then also, being smart in the way you absorb information, being smart how to deal with social media, being smart with all that distractions, positive and negative sometimes. So I think that's very, very important. And then being able to, if you play, be ready for it. And be ready for it. Take your chance. I think your first moments are sometimes really defining certain chapters in your life. So you better make sure that those first moments are something that people remember.
Yeah, it's impressive how openly you talk about, mental coach, because, in sports, we hear about that a lot, whether it's, a goalkeeper and yourself, whether it's a race car driver, whether it's a baseball pitcher or a football quarterback. And I think in the business world, you don't hear people talking about, the mental side of leadership as much. I can't even imagine the resilience you have to have as a goalkeeper. When you make a mistake, everybody knows. If a striker makes a mistake, not everybody knows and the game keeps going. But when a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it changes the game. And one thing you mentioned there is opportunity. So talk to me about when you seized your first opportunity, and this is very common in sports, it came when another player got injured. So all of a sudden you're on the sideline, you're the backup, and an injury happens, and you're thrust into that role. Talk to me about like how you seize that opportunity, how you prepare for that opportunity, how you're mentally ready for that opportunity. Cause I think that happens in the business world too, where, you're a backup and, somebody leaves the company, somebody, takes off and goes and takes another job. And all of a sudden you have to be ready. So talk to us about you seizing that first opportunity as a professional starting goalie. What was that like?
Yeah, I remember I made like a move in the summer from my local professional club to a higher professional club, and I joined as a third goalkeeper. I was 18 or 19 at the time, and then the second goalkeeper got injured, so I moved up one spot to become second goalkeeper, and then one day before the game, the first goalkeeper he got a virus in his stomach, so he couldn't play, and I heard it the night before. So what happens then is you don't have the whole week to be nervous. You just only have one night to be nervous. And that summer I built on all the little details that I wanted to make to get a great first impression to the new team, together with my mental coach. And then I was ready. I was nervous too. The warm-up was horrible. The warm-up was horrible. But then once I started to become the pitch and the whistle blew of the referee, I was just like, I'm gonna enjoy this. I'm gonna take it moment for moment, and then we ended up winning 2-0, and
Oh,
we even got a red card. So there was a lot of pressure on the game back then, and yeah, I think I showed the only thing that I reminded of people coming me and giving me advice was being composed and show rest to your defense. And sometimes that's fake it till you make it, right? Sometimes you're very stressed, but if you can show to others that you're calm and collective, then that's gonna translate to your teammates. And some people, for some people, the stadium lights are too bright, and for some people, they if the whistle blows and the stadium lights come up, they show their best, qualities. So for me, when the stadium lights went on, luckily I enjoyed it, I embraced it, and then everything came automatic, and then we won 2-0, red card, and there was a it was a great head start into my career.
wow. I'm just picturing like 18, 19 years old, third goalkeeper, moved to second, moved to first. You mentioned the person got a virus the night before and got sick. I was going to ask you, like, you must have like felt like getting sick the night before, getting worried, but like how much just tremendous pressure at such a young age, and then a shutout. 2-0. That's great. So you talked about mental coach, which is great. Talk to me about mentors and people that have really influenced you. This could be other players, it could be family members, it could be coaches, but
Yes.
like what, have you had people that have kind of mentored you along the way, in the game, or maybe for that matter, even, off the field, off the pitch?
Yeah, especially at that first season when I played for that team FC Utrecht, um, and the year after I became the starter. So our captain, I always was friends with the older people in my team because I thought I could learn the most from them, and they were not only with the unserious stuff about the whole world. So they were really focusing on how to become a better person. They had kids a lot of times, and I thought that these were the teammates where I can learn the most from. So one of my best friends was the captain, and he had 4 kids already, and he was 35, and we had a lot of stuff in common. And that first season when I started, he helped me a lot in the good times, but also in the bad times. As a goalkeeper, and maybe you've seen some of these videos, sometimes you also make a big mistake and you're a laughing stock for the whole internet. And then I remember I had one of those. I won one of those in my first year. And then the next day, he brought me to a water park with his 4 kids and his wife. And he said, "Leave your phone at home. And I remember I could disconnect from the whole world. Nobody was talking about it. It was like 2 hours away from where I was playing in Holland. 2 hours away is very, very long. So yeah, and then he kind of took me out of the internet and everyone who was talking about it. And then I was able to bounce back the next week already. And yeah, that was an amazing gesture, I think, by him. And there were some other examples of him showing leadership in that role. And also, after great moments, after great games, he was sometimes really critical about me, and that keep me not too high and not too low, right? And if it's a steady line of progression, I think that's sometimes the key in terms of growth, and especially for a young athlete in a cowboy world. This is key for good development over time and consistency.
Yeah, it's just the pressure of a celebrity, a professional athlete, where, again, your mistakes are televised. Your mistakes are in front of thousands of people. I know that if all my mistakes were televised and in front of people, man, you could have like a hit series. There were so many. Here's what's interesting about being a goalie. We often hear the term, leading from the front. So I've had a chance to lead, a number of companies, and I always say, have a vision, lead from the front, let others follow you. But as a goalkeeper, you kind of lead from the back. It's like you're on the backside, so you have a really unique vantage point. You get to see the whole game unfolding in front of you, and I think that gives you like this really unique perspective. What perspective can you share with our audience on being able to see the whole game in front of you coming at you? Like, how has that made you, a better leader for the team, or maybe a better communicator?
Yeah, I think it has pros and cons, right? So the good thing is about I have an whole perspective about the play. I can sometimes adjust momentum. I can sometimes adjust certain stuff in the game. The hard thing about that is I can't come to the game. I can't, if I don't get a ball the whole game, I can't go to the other side of the pitch and grab the ball and take initiative in terms of actual playing, right? I'm going to take the game with what I'm going to get that game, and that's all I'm going to have. And if I'm going to search for moments, that's where mistakes happen. So for me, in terms of organizing, that's 90% of my game, because the ball is for 90% not at my space. So for example, prevention in soccer is super important, because even if you have the ball, if you have the right prevention, the chances of getting the ball back is super important. So for example, if my defense is not getting up the pitch with when we're attacking at the final third, then in transition, if their strikers get the ball, my defense players are too far, and there's going to be very, very big spaces in the whole field. So I need to make sure that even in attacking, that my defense players are attached to their attackers. So if they get the ball, we can directly press them and get the ball back. That is a good example. And I think also in terms of defense in general, low block, I'm also a very energizing person. So I need to be contagious in terms of my energy. I need to be contagious, and if we win a tackle, we celebrate those tackles. If I make a save, I hope they celebrate my save with me, because a lot of times we only save the goals at the other side of the pitch. But if we don't enjoy the suffering, sometimes it's going to be very hard to get good results. So I think I have a great sense of responsibility in terms of energy, bring energy to the game, organization, and then also preparation before the game. So and sometimes it's hard, right, when we want to be responsible, because we can also not neglect our own performances and our individual performances, which sometimes you get carried away with the team responsibility. So for me, that's especially this year when I became one of the captains of the team, that's really important for me, is how can I make sure I'm responsible and I'm making sure the team gets inspired before the game when I do my pre-game speech. how get the team inspired in the game, even when in tough times, because it's very easy to have good energy in good times when we're winning, but if we're getting scored on 1 or 2 times in a very tough environment, how can we stick to our game plan? How can we not turn into ourselves but still cooperate with each other? I think those are some key things that I need to do as a goalkeeper from behind and as a leader in my team, is to make sure at all times that we are prepared in the right way.
Yeah, I think one theme that you hit there, kind of at different points is, energy and being contagious. And that's especially tough, as you said, like you have to stay in goal. Like you can't run up the field and energize your team. You've got to do it from the back. And that was kind of like the heart of the question. And it's just an interesting perspective of you kind of have to stay home. You're kind of in the back there. And it's a challenge, and you've done it so well. You're known for your energy. You talked about celebration. You've got some good sellies. I saw some of those that you've done. So that was pretty exciting. I want to switch gears a little bit. And, you've played for multiple teams and you've played for your national team. So let's talk a little bit about culture. We've been talking about leadership. We've been talking about on the field. You made a decision to, represent Indonesia and really connect to your heritage and your upbringing. Now, how did you approach integrating leading a national team culture that is different from your Dutch upbringing? So, Netherlands, Indonesian, just walk me through like cultural integration. That's a pretty unique path you went down.
Yeah, I think, like, let's start from me moving from Netherlands to the US to go for my first international experience here, right?
Let's do that.
So how I come from Holland, which is a very, or I'm born in Holland, which is a very multicultural country. We have all different cultures, um, coming from all over the world, very acceptive about every culture. We mingle in a good way, I believe, and yeah, that's how I'm raised too. Like I have a lot of friends who have different religions, and I'm all trying to absorb and learn from all religions and from all cultures, and coming to the US, I really try to integrate in in the US ecosystem, in the US, all the American sports. I was in every American sport in one fantasy league, I believe, in the first couple of years. Going to the stockyards, going to do the real Texas barbecue, yeah, going to NASCAR even, and seeing what's around NASCAR in some stuff that was a little bit culture shocking for me. But like, I believe if you integrate in the culture, you're getting accepted really quick in a culture. And also, like, for me, for example, the Texas people here are incredibly friendly, and it for me it's hard. I'm saying goodbye to my family. I'm in 7 hour time difference. My friends, my girlfriend, I don't see her all the time. So it's easier when the people are very friendly and talk to you and are very open. And I think it only works, this international experiences, if you're very open to integrate and adjust. And the same with this new journey of mine. I I'm raised in Holland, but my grandmother was from Indonesia. She lived the first 10, 15 years in Indonesia, and she was my godmother too, and she was my history teacher in high school. So I switched subjects in high school, and then I first went to the science path, which was not for me. Then I went to the economical path, and I needed to take history classes on my own, and I said, I'm going to do it with my grandmother. So then she teach me how everything about her past. She cooked always the Indonesian food for me. We were learning some words, and then she also opened up about her past in the World War II, where they got occupied by the Japanese regime. And then we also talking about like her history, and a lot of things that she spoke with me, she never spoke to my mom about. So that was super, super interesting. And then the last couple of years, her health declined. My grandfather passed away, and she was very, very emotional about that all the time. She was also getting a little bit of dementia. So it was a really, really tough time the last couple of years. And then I got approached by the Indonesian National Team because they knew that my grandmother was from there. And then at that time, it was the right time because I knew the time was going to come that she was going to pass away, which happened 5 months later. But
Oh,
into the process, I could bring a smile to her last couple months of her life, right? So that was something incredible for me, and it's really like an homage also to her. And I really resonate with the people there. The people are so kind, and yeah, I've since I've joined in last September, it's been an incredible journey, and I try to integrate in learning the songs, learning the language, uh, integrating with the people. So yeah, it's been a really, really fun journey, and they've been welcoming me with open arms. So that's been incredible.
what a tribute to your grandmother. Just getting to understand, her past, which is part of your future, and then taking her history classes, kind of finding science and economics. What would you like? Do you like history? But then, getting to play before she passed, that's pretty amazing. Now, do you care to, you know, tell us any song? Can you sing any of the Indonesian songs? Can you give us a little
No,
bit of that?
I can tell you a little bit the background about how some stuff happened there. So first, of course, you learn the national anthem, and
Yeah.
I always sing it fully out of my heart, and you can find it on the internet. I'm not gonna do that here because I need
Oh,
to be really.
I was gonna try to get you to do it for us.
No, you need to be in the mood for that. But then when I joined, I had a fun roommate. His name is Sandy, and he plays now in Japan for the Yokohama Marinos. And we were like, yeah, just learning some fun songs. So he was growing a mustache, and then my one of the trainers who was massaging me, he was learning me always all these songs. And then one song, it's called Kopi Dangdut, and it's like typical Indonesian song. And then the singer had a mustache, so I was like filming my roommate, and I said like, this guy look like Fahmi Shahab, which is the artist who sings Kopi Dangdut. And then the Indonesian social media crowd is always very, very loyal, but also very engaging. There's 300 million people there, and everyone loves the national team. So then the next day, this song became viral, and everyone was talking about it. And then we did it a couple other times where we were like integrating other songs into our national team camps. And yeah, that's just super funny. And it's funny that every day after we do this, the artists become viral in the country. So it's also a great way to help like local artists. And
Yeah.
like in December I did it with a band which I really love. It's called Barasuara, and it's a little bit more like rock and roll guitars. I'm learning guitar right now myself, and I'm a big fan of like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Linkin Park, and it's a little bit Red Hot Chili Peppers vibes for me. So for me, it's great to give them also a boost and just appreciate local talent. So that's been amazing.
So let's talk about. So you're playing for Indonesia, and it was pretty intense when you kick off because it was a World Cup qualifier. So
Yes.
it was pretty big. So now you've got the pressure of a World Cup qualifier, the pressure of playing for a national team. How is that different from playing for a club team? And is it more intense, or just walk us through that? How is it different?
It's very intense. It's very intense. The whole nation is watching. There's 300 million people, similar to the US, and soccer is by far sport number one. So everyone is watching. Everyone knows the national team, and there's a lot at stake. We're playing for a World Cup. This is the first time in history that we go to round three. So, and now actually we went to round four, which is another stage closer to the World Cup in the US here. But I played the first game of the group stage in Saudi Arabia, and then I saved the penalty at my debut. And the beautiful thing about us playing in Asia is we travel with the fans everywhere. So we were playing in Saudi, and Saudi has a big Indonesian community, and we were playing with 30,000 or 20,000 away fans in the Saudi stadium.
Oh, wow.
So, and they made way more noise than the Saudi fans, and they were so loud. And then I was able to make a penalty save on my debut, and then everything changed from that day in terms of recognition there. And I think I gained like overall socials maybe 2-3 million followers that day. So
Oh, wow.
that was a bit surrealistic. And then the next game was my first home game in Jakarta in the GBK stadium. And then we play 0-0 against Australia, and they become man of the match too. So that was like, if we talk about first impressions, and if we talk about seeking opportunity, that was again a moment where that defined my story there so far. So yeah, these are such important moments always, and I feel sometimes in these moments there's just it's not an option to fail. We have to get this opportunity. It's not an option. And then yeah, just execute what you've been learning for all these years with very hard work.
One of the things I talk about, with the leaders that I've worked with at companies I've led or boards that I work on is, the role of humility, being able to admit mistakes, being able to overcome challenges. Um, you know, in your role, you have to be confident, but you also have to be humble because, again, you might have, a penalty shot. And as you said, in your debut, you were able to stop that, but there's times you just can't. That's like, that's such a tough thing. But you've got to have the humility, the confidence. Talk to us about, like, how important is humility, as a goalkeeper, on club teams, national teams, and how important is humility, in the sport of football?
I think humility is important not only in the sport. I think humility is important in us as a human being. I identify as a football player, but that there's way more than that I am as a football player, right? So I believe because we have certain special traits with our feet, special traits with our mind, with our hands, we shouldn't feel like we're above the society, which sometimes happens with athletes. But yeah, you take yourself very serious, your ego very serious. But I love this book by Ryan Holiday, which is Ego is the Enemy.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we don't need to take ourselves that seriously because at the end of the day, we're very, very hardworking people. We're doing everything we can, and some days it's gonna be your day, sometimes it's not gonna be your day. But if you look to yourself in the mirror and you've done everything for it, you did, and then I can't complain about anything basically. And we can learn from certain stuff. We can learn from mistakes or learning moments. But yes, like as long as you're always curious about being better, as long as you show accountability after stuff happening, good or bad, I think you can never yeah, you can never be too dissatisfied with yourself. So I think that's the key in terms of humility, is being always okay with yourself. And nowadays with social media and everything always has to be better, right? And that is something that's a real challenge for my generation and the generations coming. And I have all these beautiful stuff, but there's always a better thing on social media. And I
Yeah.
think if you're walking down that path of life, it's gonna be a very slippery slope at the end of your life. So I'm just always curious to become a better person, curious to become a better athlete, curious to learn in every single way. And sometimes I'm very hard on myself in that way too. But yeah, I believe as long as we do everything we can do, then there's gonna be moments where it's gonna be tough. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's gonna appreciate the moments, and it's gonna be super super good too. So yeah, that's how I show or how I approach humility. I think in that way. That's a little long summary.
No, no, no. I liked how you first immediately went to, it's not just on the field and it's just not being an athlete, it's in life. Like how do you approach life? And you're right, with social media now, it's very easy to get caught up in look at what somebody else has, or I don't have that, or they have something better than me. Which kind of takes me into, you're an individual as a goalkeeper, but you're on a team. It's kind of like, you're on a team, you're in this like super intense individual role, oftentimes, being called out as the man of the match, or, the star player. But the role, because the team is inherently team focused, but how do you balance your individual performance as the goalkeeper with being a good teammate as well? How do you balance that?
Yeah, that's that's an interesting balance. I think sometimes you have a great game as an individual and the team end up losing. Sometimes you have a not so good game as an individual and the team end up winning.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting balance also in the feeling what you have after a game. At the end of the day, it's about the team. Like for example, last year I won a lot of individual awards within the league, but we didn't qualify for the playoffs. And this year our team has been really good, but maybe I my level has been not as defining as I was last year. So it's always some thoughts of like what is more important. And I believe for me, team trophies are way more important in terms of and then individual awards. So if what I said, like this year, I did a big step up in responsibility and in terms of leadership. So for I'm not looking a lot back always, but I'm like, how can I balance that in the right way? That and what I said to you, like sometimes we can't define every game because the game is simply not there to be defining. So it's always an interesting balance about like how to celebrate wins personally, how to celebrate wins as a team. But I think also that comes down to your support system around you, the people you have around, the team that you have built, to just be very resilient like that again. So so yeah, I think that's how I like balance that.
Well, I got one last question for you, Martin, and that's like, what legacy do you hope to leave? Whether that's with, FC Dallas, whether that's with the Indonesian team, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch. If you just look forward and then look back, like what legacy do you want Maarten Paes to have?
I think legacy is yeah, legacy personal. Like I just love people to remember me for being a great, yeah, a great athlete, but also a great human being. I hope people from my organization within had a really fun time with me around, and if they look back and I'm not there anymore, that they thought, hey, he was a cool dude. He did everything for his craft, and he only had good intentions. And I think that's first and foremost what I hope people will say about me. That's my goal. And then from an on the pitch perspective, I think trophies are legacies, right? So I just hope I can bring some silverware for the teams that I play for. I hope I'm gonna do everything with the national team to get into a World Cup, which will be already an insane legacy for the country that did it once, but in a very different time than it is now. So I think that's going to be legacy, and then inspire the future generations, on the pitch, off the pitch, in terms of how to approach your craft, uh, to believe, to dream, and to execute. And I think that's on the pitch, and then off the pitch, yeah, just showing the values of a human being, where I believe in, through others, and make sure that people know what's really important in life, and that is sometimes not the materialistic way. Of course, we all like to have nice things, but for me, that's about being a good person, and creating memories for yourself and for others.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, well, audience, this has been Maarten Paes, the starting goalkeeper for FC Dallas, a national team member of the Indonesian team, where he was able to leave a great tribute to his grandmother, coming from her heritage. A great human being. I think we've heard as much about playing with humility, not having an ego, leading from the back, a humble leader, a fearless leader, but also a pretty cool dude. So Maarten, thanks for joining us today. And I'm sure we have lots of lessons out there for young athletes, for young leaders, emerging leaders, as well as seasoned leaders who can take away, some lessons from leading from the back, leading with humility, and living fearlessly. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
This has been the Fearless Experience with Brendan P. Keegan. If you want to learn to live and lead fearlessly, go to brendanpkeegan.com.